Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm going to be ranking the films of David Lynch, one of my personal favorite directors of all time, one of the weirdest, most surreal directors I've ever come across in my life. It's a big reason why I like him so much. I'm not going to include Twin Peaks today in my rankings just because it's a TV show, so I think I'll leave that out. But I do highly, highly, highly recommend checking out Twin Peaks. I think it's his best work, and it's my favorite TV show of all time. So I'll talk about that in another video. Today, let's just go through the films. At number 10, I have Dune. This is at the bottom of my list only because I see it more as a cautionary tale than a great film. It's not that the actors are bad. Kyle MacLachlan's great in this. All the acting's pretty good. It's not that the costumes are bad. It's a little tacky, but it's 1984, so you kind of have to excuse it. It's not that any of that stuff's bad or the direction or any of that. It's the fact that it's butchered. The studio took this and they cut it up and they edited it and they took things out, and it's not his film. And this is a big reason why David Lynch came out and said, never give up Final Cut, right? This is his message to young directors, to creatives in general. Never give up Final Cut on your art. If you give up Final Cut and you let somebody else butcher it and play with it, it's no longer your art. So you have to keep Final Cut to the end, and that's a big thing that I get out of Dune when I watch it. I'm like, yeah, this film doesn't really flow as well as it should have, and I would love to see the film made exactly how David Lynch wanted to make it, but that's how it goes. Anyways, at number 9, I have Wild at Heart. This is a very underrated film, I think. It's one of the most underrated Nick Cage films of all time, and it's just kind of a simple love story with some Lynchian twists to it. And it's only this low on my list because it's been a while since I've seen it. It's probably been, 7 or 8 years since I've seen Wild at Heart, so it's not that prevalent on my memory right now. But yeah, I got Wild at Heart at 9. At number 8, I have The Straight Story. Now, I've said this before in other lists, but if this was in a different director's catalog, it would probably be higher up. It's just the fact that this isn't a very Lynchian film. It's a straight story. It's a true story too. And it's more of a wholesome, kind of heartfelt story. It doesn't feel like a Lynch film. So for that reason, I have it a little bit lower, but it is a terrific, terrific film. You can watch this film and you'll probably love it. And if you didn't check the credits, you would have never known that David Lynch directed this, but it is fantastic. And all the acting's tremendous. I won't mention all the actors' names because a lot of them you probably don't know, but all the acting in this is fantastic. Highly recommend watching The Straight Story. At number 7, I have Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me. Now, I know I said I wasn't going to mention Twin Peaks, but this is a movie. This is a movie that came out after the TV show. Well, after the first 2 seasons of the TV show, and then obviously we got the 3rd season years later in 2017. But this film is terrific. It's probably the best TV show movie I've ever seen. Some of my favorite TV shows of all time have tried this. You had El Camino with Breaking Bad. You had I think it's The Saints of Newark with The Sopranos. Both of those films are solid, but not great. And I really think Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me, it adds to the story, whereas the other ones kind of add to it. But Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me is a necessary piece in the story. And it's brilliantly done. It's terrific. It's beautiful. I'm not going to get too much into what happens because if you haven't seen Twin Peaks, that would be major spoilers. So I'll kind of leave it alone for now, but definitely go check out Twin Peaks. It's my favorite TV show of all time. At number 6, I have Inland Empire. Now, this is a masterpiece for sure, but it's definitely the least accessible David Lynch film. It's 180 minutes, so 3 hours long. And it's a very Lynchian film. So if you're not familiar with the term Lynchian, obviously it comes from David Lynch's last name, but it's a term that kind of means surrealism, but it's a certain brand of surrealism, right? It's not like a Dali kind of surrealism. It's more of a Lynchian surrealism. The way that David Lynch plays with surrealism is very unique. It's very dreamlike, and it's very nostalgic in some ways, and Inland Empire captures that fully. I think you could argue this is his best film, but like I said, it's just a little bit inaccessible because of how long it is and how much time it takes to drag out the story. Now, I don't think that that's a bad thing. This film definitely needs the time that it takes, but man, it's definitely not going to be for everybody. But if you're a Lynch fan out there and you still haven't watched Inland Empire yet, go watch it because it's one of his best films. Getting into the top five, at number five, I have Lost Highway. So this is a film that I see as just kind of a more accessible version of Inland Empire. Not that they're the same story, but they're similar in tone. Lost Highway I saw probably 5 or 6 years ago now, and wow, what a creepy film. It's bone chilling in some ways, and not in a way that a horror film is, and in a way that like a psychological thriller is. Like, it gets into your head. Lost Highway is terrific. Again, all the actors in this are amazing. I'm not going to go through the whole list because David Lynch works with quite a few, lesser known kind of B-list actors, but they all are terrific. Terrific. David Lynch is tremendous at bringing out the best performances out of his actors, and I highly recommend Lost Highway. Getting into the top four. Now, the top four, again, you can kind of shuffle it up. Number one is number one, but the 4, 3, and 2 you can kind of shuffle up for me any day, and I would be happy with it. I put Blue Velvet at number 4 today just because, man, it's weird. This could be number 2, honestly, but Blue Velvet is it makes me very uncomfortable. And there's not many films that do that. There's few directors who can really irk me in that way. Aronofsky's one of them. Gaspar Noé is another one of them. And David Lynch is one of them, especially with Blue Velvet. Blue Velvet has one of the creepiest villains in film history in Frank Booth. Like, bone chilling, just creepy, man. Like, I don't want to spoil the film for those of you who haven't seen it, but Blue Velvet is a must watch. And when you watch this film and you think this came out in 1986, it's kind of mind-blowing, like just how boundary pushing and just how provocative this film is. It's wild. It's a wild film, and it changed my life when I first saw it. I know I use that term a lot, but seriously, like, changed the way I saw film, changed the way I saw the world. It's an intense film, and I have it at number 4. At number 3, I have The Elephant Man. Now, I put this one a little bit higher only because it's a little bit more recent in my memory. I actually rewatched it recently, and terrific performances by John Hurt and not William Dafoe, Anthony Hopkins. Sorry, all the great actors kind of blend together. But Anthony Hopkins, one of my favorite actors of all time. John Hurt, again, awesome actor. Rest in peace. And yeah, this film, for coming out in 1980, is terrific. Now, it's in black and white. Didn't have to be. Is more of a, stylistic choice. But for coming out in 1980, this is an awesome, very accessible, grounded, and heartbreaking film. Like, there are scenes in this that are very, very moving, and in a way that you don't really see in any other David Lynch film, but like kind of like bringing you to the edge of tears. And a large part of that is because of John Hurt's amazing performance as the Elephant Man. Now, this is also a true story, and blurs some of the lines, but it's a true story about somebody who actually existed, and I just think it's a very important film. Again, it doesn't feel the most Lynchian, still has its Lynchian tones, but yeah, I love The Elephant Man, and I loved rewatching it recently. At number 2, I have Eraserhead. Now, everything I just said for the last 2 films applies even more for Eraserhead. The fact that this came out in 1977 is mind-blowing. Like, I can't believe this came out in 77. It's a terrific film. It's very watchable even today. Again, it's in black and white, but you don't even really notice that because it's a brilliant stylistic choice to put this in black and white. The way the shadows play off each other is so cool in this film. And when you watch this film, I would actually go into watching it for the first time or rewatching it with this in mind. He made this film because he was becoming a father for the first time, and he was kind of struggling with that and the things that come with being a father for the first time, all the insecurities and anxieties and all the things swirling around in your head. He didn't really know what to do with that, so he made a super surreal movie that helped him through that and helped explain what he was going through. And Eraserhead it's definitely that. It's all over the place. Like, it's weird, the baby's like kind of like an alien and stuff, and it's super surreal. But when you go into the film with that in mind, it does help the film make a little bit more sense. But yeah, I love Eraserhead. I think it's I think it's probably the best directorial film debut of all time. Like when you look at every director that's ever existed, and you look at the first film they ever made and you had to rank them, I'd probably put Eraserhead number one. Like, it's amazing. I'm I could talk about it all day. I'll shut up for now. But at number one, another film that I could talk about all day. My absolute favorite David Lynch film. I don't think this will ever change. It's in my top 3, top 5 favorite films of all time, if not number one. It's Mulholland Drive. This film crushed me when I first saw it. Like, crushed me. First of all, it's surreal. Incredibly surreal. I had to rewatch it many, many times to even get a grasp on what it's about. It has scenes in it that are so emotionally impactful and for reasons that I can't explain. Like, for example, the Club Silencio scene. I don't understand why every time I watch it, it gets me on the verge of tears. I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. It's in the middle of the film and it has really nothing to do with the rest of the film other than maybe some emotional tones. But man, is that scene powerful when that opera singer comes on and just starts singing, and the reaction from the girls in the crowd and the magician, and everything just blends together in this dreamlike way that is so whimsical and haunting but beautiful. And I don't know, man, it's art at its highest level for me. Mulholland Drive is a special film. It really showed me that you can make whatever you want on film. Like, some directors have shown me that you can do grandiose things, that you can have thousands of extras. Other actors or other directors have shown me that you can pull actors into very uncomfortable situations and get amazing performances out of them. But David Lynch has shown me that you can make films about whatever you want. You can dive super deep into your subconscious and pull things out that are incredibly abstract and still make it work. And Mulholland Drive is the prime example of that for me. And it will forever be one of my favorite films of all time for those reasons. Yeah, such a special film. I can't recommend it enough. But let me know in the comments, how would you guys rank David Lynch's films? Because this was a very hard list for me to make. Mulholland Drive was for sure going to be number one, but the rest of the list, I had a very hard time ordering it. And I'd like to know how you guys would order it. What is your favorite David Lynch film? How did you get into them? For me, it was a very formidable time of my life when I got into David Lynch's films, and I'd love to hear your guys' stories about that. So let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps boost this channel and the algorithm. I'll catch you guys in the next one, and peace.